let us explore a Q&A and then followed by meditating like a Jedi. So one moment while I do a quick edit because that's how I roll. Thank you for your patience. An individual asked, "Oh, that's what I could do." Anyway, let's see here. One moment, if you please. I'm going back over here. I'm going to hit window capture, and I'm going to adjust things. Well, that's a thing that just happened. Let's go here. Okay. Let's try this. Let's try this. Let's try this. So, my friends on the clock app, I am doing an edit on the screen, which I find terribly fascinating. Okay, so and we're going back to window capture. Okay. Okay, close enough for government work. That's as good as I can get it this morning. So, I'd like to read it for you now. A good-hearted person proposed the following question. Are there any benefits of daily practicing with strong determination while sitting? Like, the thing is, the person wrote, I have started recently strong determination sitting. I can sit for only like 15 minutes, and after that my mind becomes too much noisy, or I put in other words, I become very much overwhelmed and give up. I started this practice in the hopes of developing equanimity through consistent practice. Are these expectations valid or just illusion? Basically, I'm having doubt whether I shall continue this practice. So this is an excellent question. So I'm going to tap. Let's go back over here and tap button 9. So the problem is not your goal. The problem is not the goal of experiencing equanimity. The problem is the definition of equanimity you were taught. The problem is not that you're sitting and practicing. The problem is the style of practicing that you have been taught. And none of this is your fault. So, paleontologists and anthropologists agree that there is evidence to suggest that 300,000 years ago, our Paleolithic ancestors enjoyed a society that promoted being flexible, loving, rational, laid back, egalitarian, lucid, cooperative, and kind. One of the prices of the Neolithic revolution about 290,000 years later was the advent of proto-capitalism, wherein people are not only competitive, but consequently they are rigid, fearful, superstitious, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, and cruel. In other words, we went from being as groovy as Qui-Gon Jinn to as cranky as Mace Windu. This is why Sturgeon's Law reminds us that 90% of everything sex, including people, including meditation teachers. This is not paranoia. You can do what I did and learn from multiple members of each sect, multiple teachers of each sect, and you will see this over and over and over again. Crankiness, aggression, and anxiety being the rule of the day. Why is that? Well, this confusion is cleared up by gazing at the problem through the metaphoric lens of neuroscience. When we indulge our controlling and rigid tendencies to actively focus, actively analyze, even topics that have been written down by other cranky people, other rigid and controlling people in the past, we wind up exhausting both our dorsolateral as well as medial prefrontal cortex. Doing so increases the propensity of presenting with symptoms of depression, no less triggering our amygdala, the seat of both anxiety and aggression. So imagine the irony of saying, I want to be less aggressive, I want to be less anxious, and then you do things that actually multiply those symptoms. And the people you're getting advice from they're just as cranky and anxious as you, they're just maybe better at hiding it and masking it. It's a very sad state of affairs, but there's some good news. Neither the amygdala nor the prefrontal cortex constitute the entirety of our central nervous system. We have a spinal cord. The fancy name for both facets of our spinal cord is the autonomic nervous system. When we stop actively competing against it and begin to passively cooperate with it, amazing things happen. The anxiety and aggression of our amygdala is calmed, and the empathy of our anterior cingulate gyrus is gently stimulated, which is very good news. Our autonomic nervous system has two facets. The first helps with mindfulness. The second helps with meditation. Let's begin with mindfulness. Every time we inhale, whether we know it or not, we automatically access the middle bit of our spinal cord, which has evolved to help us notice in a very special way. It has evolved to help us to vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly notice mind's antics of perception, our faculty of seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, smelling, and the like, are a faculty of emotion, intention, cognition, recollection, and imagination. Our ability to notice all manner of phenomena, from the external to the internal, from the physical to the mental, from the pleasurable to the painful, from the interesting to the boring, from the glorious to the grotesque. Chogdud Kondro said it's always good to have a hook to hang your hat on. The rule of thumb for mindfulness is as follows. As we feel our chest swell with breath, we can silently and mentally recite the verb watch. That's the only label we need to ever use. It's a universal label. But what do we do with that which we have noticed? That brings us to meditation. Oops, my earbuds are still in. But that's not affecting. It was not making me sound like an alien on the podcast. It very well may be. So, every time we exhale, whether we know it or not, we have evolved to automatically access the addict in the basement of that same spinal cord. These regions, both these regions as a team, their fancy name is parasympathetic nervous system. And it has evolved to help us relax during our exhalation to such a degree that which we noticed during our previous inhalation could fleetingly feel less stressful, less permanent, less defining, and even as non-graspable as a vast empty void. Now, any good English teacher will remind us that a simile is only as useful as it is relatable. So we have to ask the question, what? What is a real-world example of a non-graspable vast empty void? How about the illusion of the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn, which although could look tantalizing to the eye, could feel non-graspable to the hand? So we see that emptiness is just a metaphor for one of the many subtle phenomena we can sample during each exhalation. Similarly, what about no self? However, as we relax into our exhalation, whatever identity we might have grasped onto during our previous inhalation could feel less defining, at least fleetingly, at least momentarily. That is what is meant by no self, or not self, or anatta, if you prefer, or selflessness. These aren't things to be understood, these are not things to be believed, these are things that are felt viscerally and fleetingly during each exhalation. The rule of thumb, therefore, for meditation is as follows. As we feel our chest subtly sink, as gently we exhale, we silently and mentally recite the verb rest. And so, bearing this in mind, we no longer indulge our controlling tendencies of choosing what to notice. We vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly notice that ever seems to cartwheel across the stage of our mind. So our job is not thought suppression. Here's the cool thing. The more time we spend watching and resting in harmony with our breathing, the more manageable our perceptions, emotions, intentions, thoughts, memories, and imaginings become. The liberation promised is not liberation from the presence of mind's antics, but merely from its tyranny. The more we watch and rest, the more our choices, utterances, and deeds flow, not from calculated contrivance, not from wild scatterness, but from love's deeply centered spontaneity. And so instead of cursing the waves, we surf them. Having completed the opening Q&A, we could now shift gears. It is Luke Skywalker early Friday night, at least it is here in San Francisco. Welcome to meditate like, let's try this again. Let's meditate like a Jedi after about 30 seconds of housekeeping. This is the Dzogchen Sende Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. For more than 30 years, I have harnessed my autistic special interests as well as my ADHD hyperfocus to spend about 8 hours a day, almost every day, studying, practicing, mastering, and reverse engineering the teachings and techniques of each school of meditation so that I can become your personal, nerdy, neurodivergent guide to nirvana. Welcome, my friends, to meditate like a Jedi, which is made possible due to the generosity of viewers just like you. If you just tuned in, allow me to, thank you for the love. If you just tuned in, allow me to remind you the key to mindfulness is to silently and mentally recite the verb watch every time we feel our chest swell with breath. The key to meditation, the most efficient way to practice meditation, is to silently and mentally recite the verb rest every time we feel our chest subtly sink as gently we exhale. Let us practice right now. The free fall of meditation can feel triggering to our controlling tendencies. A workaround is to play with a variation of Bengali crease counting. We could touch the tip of our left thumb to the lowest set of creases on this left little finger, thus keeping track of our first set of 16 inhalations. We can now rest this left hand palms up in our lap. Every time we silently and mentally recite the verb watch as our chest swells with breath, we can advance our right thumb up creases and tips of each of its fingers, beginning with the left. Let's do this together right now. Behold, my thumb has run out of places to count. That means it's time for my left thumb to advance to its next set of creases. And now we get the basic idea of how we could count 16 sets of 16 inhalations each. Counting 16 inhalations takes a little more than a minute. Counting 16 sets, those same 16 inhalations, takes a little more than 20 minutes. While gathering our first collection of 20 minutes, we can rest the great knuckle, the first knuckle at the base of our right middle finger, on the tip of our left middle finger, palms up in our lap. While gathering our second collection of 16 sets of 16 inhalations, we could rest the second knuckle of our right middle finger upon the tip of our left middle finger, palms up in our lap. While gathering our third collection of 20 minutes, we could rest the third knuckle of our right middle finger upon the tip of our left middle finger, you guessed it, palms up in our lap. And so our knuckles mark our collections, our left creases and tip mark our sets, while right creases and tips mark our inhalations. Overwhelmed? The antidote is repetition. Practice with me once every 12 hours or so, and within a week or two, the Buddhist path you could master. The moment you have a specific question about the philosophies or meditations of Taoism, Buddhism, Tantra, Dzogchen, Zen, or Mahamudra, do not hesitate to type your question in great detail in the chat bubble, for I tend to check for questions about every 5 minutes or so. To my friends who have just joined us on the Tube app, allow me to remind you, allow me to direct your gaze to the upper left-hand corner of the screen. The key to efficiently practicing mindfulness is to silently and mentally recite the verb watch every time we feel our chest swell with breath. Similarly, the key to the efficient practice of meditation is for us to silently and mentally recite the verb rest every time we feel our chest subtly sink as gently we exhale. According to the Buddha, the first enlightenment factor was mindfulness. Vulnerably, passively, viscerally, rambling, fruitful. Noticing mind's antics. of perception, emotion, intention, cognition, recollection, and imagination, which is the opposite of thought suppression or mind blanking. The sixth enlightenment factor is coalescence. As the air coalesces in our lungs as we inhale, our perceptions, emotions, intentions, cognitions, recollections, and imaginings coalesce in our mind as well. You have taken your first step into a much larger world. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel. In approximately 3 hours, I would very much like to return to lead today's second session of Q&A, followed by meditating like a Jedi. And if you are as geeky as me, may the Force be with you always.